Addiction doesn't start with weakness. It starts with a whisper, a soft, quiet ache that says, something's missing. You think you're chasing pleasure, but really, you're chasing peace. Carl Jung believed addiction is never the disease. It's the symptom. It's your psyche trying to communicate a truth your ego refuses to face. Every craving is a message. Every obsession, a mirror. You don't want the substance, the person, the scroll. You want the silence that comes after it. But you've forgotten how to feel safe in silence. So you run, you reach, you repeat. Not because you're broken, but because you're trying to remember what wholeness felt like. The modern world worships stimulation. Silence is called laziness. Stillness is mistaken for failure. And so you keep moving, scrolling, consuming, terrified of the moment the noise stops. Because when it does, your mind starts talking. And it doesn't whisper, it screams. You try to manage it through willpower. Delete the app, quit the habit, block the number. But Jung said, what you resist persists. You can't escape what you refuse to understand. Because the addiction isn't outside of you. It's the shadow of what you've denied. Control doesn't heal it. Awareness does. Until you face the hunger beneath the habit, you'll keep changing the object, but never the pattern. Every addiction has a personality. Seductive, familiar, convincing. It promises comfort, but delivers emptiness. You tell yourself, it's harmless. Just one more time. But Jung knew, repetition is ritual, and every ritual feeds the archetype it serves. When you keep returning to what hurts you, it's not because you enjoy the pain. It's because the pain feels like home. Your nervous system confuses chaos with love, intensity with meaning. That's why you crave people who drain you, goals that exhaust you, screens that silence you. You're not addicted to pleasure. You're addicted to the feeling of being alive, even if it costs you peace. Because peace, to the unhealed mind, feels like emptiness. And emptiness terrifies those who've never met their own silence. But one day, something shifts. The high doesn't hit the same. The escape stops working. And for the first time, you're forced to look, really look, at yourself. Not the version you post, the one that trembles in quiet moments. That's the mirror moment Jung spoke of, when the shadow and the self lock eyes. It's brutal, it's humbling, but it's also holy, because this is the beginning of healing. Addiction, when seen with awareness, becomes initiation. It's your psyche saying, you're ready now, to stop escaping and start returning. You start realizing that the thing you were running from was never the pain. It was the part of you that felt it. You think healing begins the day you quit, but it doesn't. It begins the day you stop lying to yourself about why you needed to begin at all. The quitting is easy. It's the quiet that follows that breaks you, because in that quiet, there's no distraction left to hide behind. It's just you, and the echo of everything you ran from. You start realizing how much of your identity was built around escaping truth. The people you chased weren't love, they were noise. The goals you obsessed over weren't purpose. They were permission to keep avoiding yourself. Carl Jung called this collapse the withdrawal of projection, the brutal moment when the outside world stops being your scapegoat and starts reflecting exactly what's inside of you. It's disorienting, like looking in a mirror that suddenly talks back. But that's the moment your false self begins to die. And every piece that crumbles isn't loss. It's liberation in disguise. You're not falling apart. You're falling open. Silence used to scare you, because silence was where your mind lived, and your mind was chaos. But now, you start sitting in it. At first, it feels unbearable, like withdrawal from a drug you never knew you were using. Stimulation. You itch for noise, for motion, for something to drown out the whisper of your soul. But you resist. You stay. And something changes. The silence starts talking. Not with words, with knowing. You begin to understand that every craving was a coded message. The alcohol said, "I can't relax." The scrolling said, "I can't be alone." The relationship said, "I can't feel enough." Jung wrote that the unconscious speaks in symbols. Your addictions were those symbols, not punishments, but invitations. Every urge that once enslaved you was actually the body's desperate attempt to communicate a need the mind ignored. And when you finally listen, you don't crave anymore. Because what you truly wanted was never the thing. It was the peace behind it. And peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Eventually, the high loses meaning. You no longer chase, you choose. And for the first time, your choices don't come from fear. They come from awareness. You start waking up with a strange calm. You crave less, but you feel more. The taste of coffee, the sound of rain, the stillness before dawn. All of it feels sacred. You start understanding what Jung meant by making the darkness conscious. You've dragged your shadow into the light, and in doing so, you've discovered it wasn't your enemy. It was your guide. Now, you say no with conviction. You say yes with clarity. You stop performing for love and start radiating it. Discipline becomes devotion. Boundaries become blessings. You realize you were never addicted to the thing. You were addicted to the version of you that thought you needed it. And once you outgrow that version, the chains fall off on their own. And then, it happens quietly. No epiphany, no fireworks, no applause, just peace. Deep, grounded, terrifyingly still peace. You realize the goal was never to be clean. It was to be clear. The craving is gone, not because you fought it, but because you outgrew the part of you that needed it to survive. Addiction, you finally see, was never a flaw. It was a flare, a signal from the depths of your psyche saying, "You're lost. Come home." And now you have. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's what you've done. You made the darkness your teacher. You turned the wound into wisdom. You didn't escape the shadow. You befriended it. And now, when you look back, you no longer see addiction. You see a message. One that saved your life by forcing you to finally meet yourself. You were never broken, just buried. And now, you've been found.